On November 22, 1934, a hunter near Pine Grove Furnace, Pennsylvania, found a suitcase in the woods. A puzzle book was found inside with the name Norma written on the cover. On November 24th, two men saw a green blanket covering something on the ground 20 feet off Centerville Road on South Mountain. They looked under the blanket and were horrified to find the bodies of three girls lying side by side as if sleeping. Police had nothing to go on when the bodies were moved to a funeral home in Carlisle. In the next 24 hours, over 10,000 people were allowed to view the bodies in the hope that someone may know the victims, but no one could. History would label the children three babes in the woods, and the details of what exactly happened during their final days will probably never be known. Reporters were dispatched from every major newspaper within 300 miles of Carlisle. Overnight, they became the talk of the town and captured front-page headlines nationwide. An autopsy determined the girls died from either strangulation or suffocation and had no food during the 18 hours prior to death. It is believed they were placed on the mountain the previous evening and had been dead between 12 and 72 hours before they were found. That same day, Elmo Noakes, 32, and his niece Winifred Pierce, 18, were found dead outside Altoona in an apparent murder-suicide. Evidence would eventually link the deaths together and identify the girls as 12-year-old Norma Sedgwick and her half-sister Dewilla, 10, and Cordelia, 8. A nationwide investigation began. About 3,000 people were interviewed and clues were pursued as far away as California. Newspaper accounts tell the story of how Elmo's wife died in 1932, leaving him alone to raise the sisters in Roseville, California. 6 months before the tragedy, Winifred quit high school to care for the children, while Noakes worked for the Pacific Fruit Express Company. Friends and relatives sensed a growing romance between Noakes and Pierce, but kinship was a barrier to their love. Elmo then made the decision to leave California on November 11th with his 3 children and Winifred in a car he had bought for $46 a day earlier. They drove across country and were seen in Philadelphia on November 18th and stayed at a tourist camp nearby from November 19th to November 21st. Investigators believe this was the day Elmo Noakes murdered the girls because he was desperately broke and wanted to spare his children a life of poverty and starvation. A 1929 Pontiac sedan was found abandoned in a field about 40 miles east of Altoona. Its identification number revealed that it had been sold to Noakes on November 10th. Investigators believed Elmo Noakes and Winifred Pierce spent the night of November 22nd at a boarding house in Altoona. The next day, Pierce sold her coat, their last possession, for $2.55, and Noakes used the money to buy a .22 caliber rifle from a second-hand store. A day later, Noakes used it to kill Pierce and then took his own life. Their bodies were found in Blair County. An alternative explanation. Relatives dispute the official version that Noakes murdered his children. They believe Elmo and Winifred were sighted by Gettysburg knocking on doors and asking for food while the girls were left in the car with its engine running to stay warm, and the girls were overcome by exhaust fumes. Noakes and Pierce then panicked and drove the car down back roads to South Mountain, where the bodies were laid on a blanket and covered with another. Newspapers at the time called it the biggest crime mystery since the Lindenberg baby kidnapping and murder. "You never heard anything like that happen in a little town," a local resident said. "It was real news."